talking to people who have survived near-death experiences. In May of 2012, Hannah Luce boarded a small Cessna plane with 4 friends, and what began as an exciting adventure soon turned into a terrifying battle for survival.
We were headed from Tulsa, Oklahoma to Council Bluffs, Iowa. In the Cessna, we were on this 6-seater plane. Luke was a pilot ever since he was young. Austin was incredibly charismatic, country boy. They just met 7. Garrett and I were very good friends. We connected on a very intellectual level. As we take off, I snap a picture of us. We're all excited for the future, for what's to come. About an hour into the plane ride, the plane flooded smoke. We all started to suffocate. It's loud. There's a lot of coughing. It felt really, really, really rocky. And there's a lot of yelling, but you can't hear anything. And looking down outside the window, trying to, first of all, trying to block my eyes from the snow. But look out the window. I was looking for landmarks, like a house, car, anybody, anything. There's nothing. We were free falling. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew it was bad. As soon as we had crashed and stuck in the plane, I caught on fire. I'm trying to figure out how to get myself out. I was losing oxygen. I was fighting to stay alive. And I had to choose whether or not I was going to live or die.
Please welcome Hannah Luce. Hey, Hannah. Gosh, again, I think all of us have had these experiences where we wonder, gosh, what would it be like? Especially, I'm afraid of flying, so this is something that I think of every time I get on an airplane. And what was it like when you realized this plane is going down?
My first thought was to conserve my breath. One of my lungs had already collapsed. As we're flying in the sky, and you can't see your hands in front of you because the smoke was so thick. When we hit the ground, I got stuck in the plane. That wrestling struggle of figuring out, I'm losing oxygen. I can barely breathe, and I'm looking back and I see that I'm on fire, but I can't feel it because your body, your mind, your soul is in survival mode.
And did you think initially you were the only survivor? Did you see the other people who had been in the plane?
We couldn't see anything because of the smoke. But I was laying over one of my friend's bodies, as I was trying to get out. And my hands were getting charred on the hot metal as I'm trying to pull myself out. And as I'm kind of brushing myself off, I look down and I realize I'm still on fire. So I stopped rock and roll as I'm getting up. I see in the distance, a charming marine-like figure coming closer to me. And if it hadn't been for his stance, I wouldn't have recognized him. And so we're both walking. We're walking with
this was your friend,
Austin,
who had been in the plane.
Austin Anderson, he had been in the plane, and I didn't know anyone was still alive. He was unrecognizable.
He had been burned over 90% of his body, but he was able to walk and try to find help with you.
At that point, we're still kind of in shock, so you don't feel the fire. You don't feel when you're on fire. You only feel it afterwards whenever there's the wind.
We have photographs, Hannah, of the extent of your injuries and your burns, and they're quite graphic. I just took more people, and I can see on your arm you still have the scars from this. You went to the hospital, and you got some pretty devastating news.
I learned that Austin didn't make it, and it broke my heart. Because in many ways, I'm like, I would bargain with the universe to bring them back, Why was it them and not me? I couldn't live with the fact that that I was the only survivor. that's why I have this around my neck all the time. It's a piece of the plane, and it's a reminder to me that I want to make them proud of the life that I have.
And I know that your father is the founder of something called Teen Mania Ministries. It's an evangelical Christian youth organization. You were actually on your way to one of his events when this plane crashed. So I'm just curious, did this shape your faith to its core?
You can never merit faith, courage, or sustenance of strength. Faith is always is inside of us. It breathes life into us. Faith can never be truly shaken.
You talk about survivor's guilt. Dr. Sue Arma is a psychiatrist at the NYU Lingo Medical Center. She's an expert on survivor's guilt. She's worked with many of the men and women who survived the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center. And I'm just curious, survivor's guilt is something we hear about so often. First of all, it seems obvious why it exists. But how prevalent is it in situations like Hannah's?
Yes, it can actually be very common that there is this idea of, I just experienced this incredible tragedy, life-threatening event. I lost people that were very close to me. I was medically injured, and I witnessed a lot of horrific things. And the question is then, why is it and how is it that I survived? So we see that in the aftermath, a lot of people will experience intrusive thoughts, images, nightmares about the event. They'll also have a sense of hopelessness and helplessness, that if this can happen to someone that I care about, how do I know that this can't happen to me? So it's an interesting twist of events, both a sense of loss for the person that you cared about, but also this idea that I don't know when the other shoe is going to drop.
How can Hannah move forward?
Yeah, so there's this idea of resiliency, and I do believe that the human spirit really has the capacity to move forward. But there are certain key things that are important. Social support, huge. Having friends and family. This can help normalize the situation and also help give you a place to kind of relive and retell the story if you need to. The second thing is giving back, and that's so key, because a lot of times people have a tendency to isolate, want to keep to themselves, but this, by giving back to other people, it gives you a sense of meaning in an otherwise senseless situation. Like, why did something like this need to happen to us? We're a bunch of, college kids, we're doing good in the world, why does this have to happen? But if you can spin it around and give back, that can be very helpful. And the third thing I want to say is optimism. Developing optimism, whether it be through faith, whether it be through hope, whether it be through a sense of humor, whether it be through sort of challenging some of the negative, dark thoughts that want to creep into your mind. And lastly, professional help if you need it.
We're so happy that you're doing well and that you did survive, and you're not only surviving, but you're thriving. Hannah Luce, so nice to meet you. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you.
And everyone is going home with a copy of Hannah's book, by the way, Fields of Grace. And to read an excerpt, you can head to our website. We'll be right back.